Someone's gonna look back on this and be like, "Oh my God, he's dead." You knew? Yes. Oh my God, we don't have the yeah, whatever. How about this, huh? Okay. I'm sorry I even tried. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There we go. Didn't have healthcare or support for making appointments or the knowing which place to go or all that kind of stuff. All right. Wow, that's the longest fucking trapdoor ever. Okay. How about we don't do that anymore? What I'm curious about. Gone? Wow. I totally got off my shit. How much is this? 43? From 41 to 100 and wow. Okay, so it's 110. Okay. What if I should rant? Oh. Hmm. The main issue with no kings. And not like melee strong. Um, the host toolkits don't have mention of democratic or collective or like inclusive decision making. So what ultimately happens is whoever has the ability to make the event or gets approved on the map first kind of has all the power. They get the sign up information and can send messages to whatever. They improved on this by having event hosts had to share a safety lead and a media lead. Okay, which way was it for the first time? So expecting people to have to work with others, but I think it was down, honestly. It was super, whatever. But people can just put down their friends' names. So that happened to us. I ended up doing the press release and everything. They can say do all this stuff, but there's no commitment. Come on. Okay. So without the structure, the democratic structure of decision making, inclusive decision making, which means like you wouldn't have a room full of non-black folks, like one black person running their like creating a Black Lives Matter organization and like not centering the decisions on the affected community. That's the point of inclusive decision making. Is like even if you don't have just that the peoples who are most affected by the work should be central to decision making, which is what Jane McAlvey kind of wrote. Okay, no shortcuts about. That the workers weren't really centered in decision making in the new labor ethos. Come on. Oh my god, he fucking ran into me. So the most impacted community, whether it's like immigrant rights, whatever, should be central to decisions, especially because a lot of these things end up being dominated by older folks with money. So they have the free time to care about action as like a good in itself, and working class people or marginalized people, people are like struggling, okay, really don't have that much time to fuck around with, especially organizations that aren't producing a real benefit in their lives, or like that they don't see the reason for. That's why we have inclusive decision making. Democratic, obviously, we should make decisions based off of like what the most people agree to, and that's been there's a bunch of different ways you can rig that, like inviting all your friends to come to the meeting, and then you have enough voices to kind of overpower the impacted communities. And whenever you point out this stuff, whenever like someone that's from a marginalized group mentions, oh hey, like we're not really listening to this group, we're kind of like for our ISOT vigil, we wanted to have demands and like let there be some outrage. They literally executed, you know, American citizen who's doing legal observation, and some older retiree lady, obviously white, was saying like, "Oh, how could we?" Or, "Oh my God, how terrible is it that we can't come together and mourn this person?" That's an interesting one. What is happening there? What was that? So terrible that we can't come together and just mourn her without being political. And it's like, holy shit, if I die from a federal agent going fucking nuts, I would hope that people would want to change the system that caused the reason for me dying. And we barely even got to mention like demands or outrage. You could only like a little bit. It's just it was all older white folks, honestly, to be frank. Not giving a shit about what immigrant folks, those who did the actual legal observation. I brought up like, hey, look, you're not actually like from this community. This is what this event is for. This is what it says, and like the guide for Indivisible. They just really didn't care because people want power. They want to be in control, and especially if you're like used to being in control, whether an individual or like a demographic level. It's like you're the family. You're like the family person that always drives the car. The first time you're not driving the car, the first time you're not behind the driver's seat, it feels like things are gonna go catastrophically wrong, even if you're safe. And like that's obviously not a reason. Like that fear is not a reason to keep people from learning how to drive the car. So that happens at like an individual level with like not wanting to give power over to other people because you're worried about things going wrong, and you let that fear control you. Which coincidentally also like gives you more power because you don't share it. But also like the first time marginalized communities or impacted communities are centered in making, it freaks people out, honestly. I think it affects everyone. Like even I had to kind of get over that expectation that like the white parts of my identity were like the defaults, or that like that was something that everyone else had as like a cultural thing, and to accept all the differences and to be able to value them, because having all these different perspectives makes sure that we aren't out of touch. But assuming and insisting that basically the older white perspectives are the default and that anyone else that does otherwise is like morally wrong, like by wanting to include outrage demands at an event, that's honestly like it's a bit of it's like supremacy. It's casual supremacy. Not all racism is like someone yelling slurs at you. I'm gonna go this way. This way. Alright, I honestly forgot where we're going. It's over to the right. Okay, I think we made it, or we made it to halfway point. So that's what's causing No Kings and like Mayday Strong and like a bunch of other NAFTA mobilizations. We did this all in 2020, or 2017 through 2020. And it's like the same issues, like we know what they are. It's that the people who have time to be involved in planning protests are honestly more have more privileged backgrounds. That doesn't make you evil to like point out that you have the resources to care about something as good in itself. That you don't need to see results. Like your family's not gonna die if you fuck up. And it's that kind of my family's gonna fucking die that that makes people really fight like hell. And if they don't see people fighting like that, they don't get involved because they see that people don't really appreciate their time. Go on. Okay. Without, okay. Go on. So without us like really respecting people's time and centering the impacted communities, other people from those communities will realize like, oh hey, this isn't for me. I'm not the one being listened to here. Like they're fighting for themselves, and that's why a lot of No Kings things aren't like there's such a demographic skew. It's because we haven't done the active work to make sure this happens. It's really a free for all with anyone can sign up. That was stupid. One. One. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort to build structure to ensure this stuff happens. It's sloppy. People's like personal bullshit gets noise. We're going up. Come on. And national groups are like riding this wave. Okay. Riding the wave of people going out because they see atrocities, like horrible things happening on video camera, in color, in fucking 4K. Okay? Jesus Christ. Come on. Come on. So people are coming out to these protests because they see atrocities, horrible things happening, and there's also like the digital tools, and you can turn people out, and all those benefits happening as well. Groups, actually doing outreach and effort. We're going up. You gotta be kidding me. And the way we fix it is basically requiring people basically to sign on to commit to having inclusive democratic decision making, or at least try. Have some sort of complaint process where the flags make it go up to national, and they actually have a staffer to help it out. Like all these groups are fundraising like a motherfucker off of these protests, so it's like why can't they donate some money to actually make sure that it's done the right way, that our communities actually have real victories and stuff that we win, because Ashley Woodard Henderson from the coalition from Work Group Families Party said pretty openly like these are the important thing to do is to connect our symbolic protest community with the people doing the good work. To connect people that come out to these things with actual campaigns for justice that produce meaningful change, because we can't keep on just doing this over and over and over without actually seeing any change in people's lives. Otherwise, they'll stop coming out and they'll stop having hope, and they'll see that the point of these protests, which is, there are multiple points, but it's for people to blow off steam for a lot of folks, and for other people, it's to survive. It's to keep their families safe. And if we don't acknowledge that tension and the difference between the motivations that bring people to actually take action, we're just going to keep on running into problems. People are going to misunderstand. We're going to be not aligned in our goals, intentions, and all that. And it's little things like when you have a meeting, you start by doing introductions, people's names, and then including how people are showing up today. This is one of the things that I read in, I think, the Museum of Protest guides. I thought was great. How are you showing up today? Like, why are you here? And giving space for that allows people to understand there are different motivations and goals and mindsets. You know, maybe someone's there for a reason that you didn't think about that's not included by the mainstream, you know, corporate media or whatever. It's a chance to learn, it's a chance to connect, it's a chance for people to share the motivations which you need to understand to actually work with people. Because if you don't understand someone's motivations, you're assuming. And when we assume, make an ass out of you and me, all that bullshit, it's real. It's a real problem. Okay. And we can do better. Come on. So, including commitment to this stuff, having some sort of flag, feedback, evaluation process that's better than you reply good, missed, or like bad. Like, not everyone wants to say that it's bad, like they're gonna screw over the people hosting their event. Maybe they have like a little thing that wants to be changed. So by including such like a dichotomy in our evaluations and feedback, good, bad, or missed, we disincentivize people actually speaking up to the things that they would like to see at the rallies. We're holding people away from being able to participate in bettering these events. And this all just makes it easy on the people, the nonprofits that are here to like organizationally profit. They're here to fundraise, they're here to grow the membership lists, to get in the news, to look good for grant applications so they get more money. These are all very real. We have to honestly contend with the motivations that some organizations have for doing these things. We're not all here for the fight for the same reasons, and we're here at different scales. Okay. Okay, come on. That was stupid. Are we done? No. That's why No Kings is failing, why we need more democratic and inclusive decision making, evaluation and feedback mechanisms that are better than good, bad, or missed, flags and ways for national to improve. And the other part is to recruit at the events themselves. You can have what we call a barnstorm mask. This is essentially recruiting with the hype of the moment and leveraging social pressure. So like imagine a text, an email, social media post that asks you to get involved and join the movement. That's going to be infinitely less compelling than someone at the peak of excitement at a rally, when you have the good vibes, when you have the excitement, when you have a good crowd asking you to join the movement. Because you can, it's not just asking, like you do it then and there. You have them sign up in this moment to actually commit to some clearly defined specific role that they can take, and you know, pitching it as such helps people understand that you don't need to dedicate your life. It can be as few as a few hours per month that changes your entire community if we do it intentionally and if we do it strategically. So that's called the barnstorm mask. It's what Bernie did well, Beto, Mamdani even did it, tabling at the rallies. And it's something the Democratic campaigns fucking suck at, because their rallies are hosted by an events team that is totally separate from your field operations, your volunteering systems. The people that host rallies for Democratic campaigns are like just there for the headlines. So they basically only get volunteers through those getting contact info for someone else can try and recruit from them later on. I think that's enough. And I guess this is just like the way it's been done for a while, because they really do not seem interested in changing it. They don't really seem to see the problem with not recruiting. Everything's good enough for them because people don't want to speak up out of fear of ruining their career by losing relationships, because it's big egos. Even they said on a recent DNC career call that like this is a field full of big egos, and like holy shit, it's a lot of oh, I can't speak up about this god awful thing that I know is gonna hurt our campaign because this person's gonna take it personally. And that's honestly how all of our shit is run. It's this old school authoritarian, insanely outdated way of actually managing our operations. It's not about inclusive or democratic decision making. It's not about the best ideas when it's about this person has a title and they are in charge. And honestly, I'm not sure the military is always the way you want to run everything. Because if people don't feel, if you don't break people like the way the military does, they won't listen to you. In our movements, we need to be fair, democratic, inclusive. We need to actually give people a chance to shine, to show that we care about their input, that we value their perspectives. Without doing this, okay? Can you fucking kill me now? Do it. Do it. Come on. So we have all the answers. It's not like we have to sit back and let Trump administration just keep on dominating our elections. We could have better rallies. We could have better events. We could have better volunteer recruitment systems. We could have better decision making in our campaigns. We could, like stop having private consulting firms and doing a lot of the random canvassing, hiring out-of-state businesses to fuck me. Come on. Because out-of-state, private businesses to do some of the canvassing in harder to reach areas. And God, you don't know how out of touch, just because they're not from the community. I guess there's some sort of liability. They don't want to hire paid canvassers in Democratic campaigns because one of them gets in trouble, like a DUI, then it's like, Democratic campaign staffer has a DUI, and they focus on it because they did that in 2018 with the Gillum campaign, with the youth engagement director had a shirt from the social media that said "dumb as fuckistan" with states that voted for Trump, which is terrible. Lowbrow, super reductive. And he got fired for that, but got a nice job afterwards. But dealing with all this is totally feasible. We can invest that money into local campaigns, like either the county party or just it goes through the state party like it normally does, or it's some sort of private. I guess it could be a private firm, but you have the county and local field operations giving insight and working with them, or you just give the money to the county party to actually hire folks. That would make so many people so happy, so much more engaged. It's really terrible, but a lot more people would volunteer if they knew that there was a possibility of being a paid staffer. And though you need to be super clear and upfront about that. Just from a cold, hard, ruthless logic standpoint, you would have more labor power if county parties could hire staffers. And sometimes, you can't even have interns because there's no unpaid interns, and that really fucks you over on college campuses, which happened in 2024. So we could pay interns, we could pay local canvassing operations. This would give us access to universities where people could, have tabling events. They could reserve tabling as students, work with a campaign staffer to always have a student at the table, abide by the rules and everything. And just doing outreach with lots of signs and color changing lights and a cardboard cutout, and the buttons and the stickers, and people love that shit so much they will start swarming your table. And for some reason, because this is high traffic canvassing, because the national team can't be an absolute 100% control of who you talk to, which isn't, they have a targeting algorithms that they want staffers to use in Vote Builder, Voter Activation Network, which is also a private company that screws over a lot of candidates because they trick people or they trap people into year-long contracts, even when they might only need a few months. There's no way to cancel, so it is predatory. Fundamentally, our campaigns are predatory and authoritarian and undemocratic. And if we are willing to do whatever it takes to win, we're doing whatever it takes to defeat the Trump administration, not fixing these things is just insane. It's only lending credibility to people's claims that we lose on purpose, and it's so much more frustrating that that's like not true, but it almost might as well be. So no kings and our campaigns, like we all have a lot of the same problems with not being democratic, and this is just called consent. Having a say in decisions that affect your life is democracy. It doesn't have to be just voting once every 4 years, 2 years, whatever. It can be in your workplace. It can be in your school. It can be as, you know, someone who rents from an apartment complex, that you can join up with your fellow tenants and say, you know, until this contract is actually being listened to, you know, until you fucking deal with this black mold, or until you fix the goddamn door, like Spider-Man did, Spider-Man 2, you're not getting your damn rent. You can come together with fellow people that are being exploited, whether it's coworkers, tenants, students, neighbors. You're all in economic relationships. That means you are 1,000 times stronger of a relationship than you would with someone that you join up based off of ideological connection, because you technically agree with someone in politics, and polity is not the same thing as being in the struggle together. And trying to form our relationships based off of ideology, trying to say like, oh, because we technically agree on this thing, we're going to work together very closely, many hours, and it's going to work out. And we're not going to actually sit down and talk to each other to understand each other's motivations. We're not going to have that one-on-one, what we call organizing one-on-one. We're not going to have the one-on-one. We're not going to build a relationship that's intentional. We're just going to keep on going at it, and maybe it works out. That's not intentional. That's not strategic. It's a goddamn waste of fucking time, and it's why we're losing so much. So we have to be intentional in the way we build our relationships in electoral campaigns, and in issue-based, and in mobilizations. We can actually sit down with people, understand their motivations, their goals, why they come to this moment, where they grew up, what their parents did, like their material condition, their wealth, their class, the bullshit they had to wade through, because we all had something. But connecting based off of that helps us build strong relationships, even if we don't inherently have like the depth of like coworkers or fellow tenants in a slumlord, you know, apartments. We can intentionally build this if it's not there, but we should, whenever possible, be trying to leverage the existing systems that we are all brought in as students, coworkers, tenants. And if we just could do that, if we could just like bring people together that way in unions, if we could somehow use No Kings and other national mobilizations to improve like recruitment for these kind of things, we would be doing 1,000 times better. Like we would not be in our situation at all. And that's what Jane McAlvey argues in No Shortcuts. Is basically that only a renewed labor movement can fix these problems. Come on. Not good. And we can do this. We can totally... We have the answers. Only renewed labor movement. And then Erica Smiley and Sarita Gupta said in Feature We Needed 2022 that it's not just co-workers, it's not just you know, labor unions. We can also come together as like the tenants, the students, whatever economic relationship language I mentioned. It's all possible, and it's all fundamentally the same thing: collective bargaining and having democracy where democracy does not currently exist, where we're currently stuck with exploitation, authoritarianism. So they argue that, you know, we frame this all as, okay, we couch it in the language of democracy, because that's what it is. It's about consent. It's about not getting fucked over. It's about having a fair future, a fair return on the labor, a fair amount of like wealth and capital return on the labor that we provide, because we don't get paid based off of that. We get paid based off the lowest amount possible that anyone would ever take to do the job, which is totally fucked up. It explains a lot of my problems. That it's always about what's the least that we can pay people, and not what value are they providing. What is a fair amount of a wage based off of the profits that they're making us. We have not actually had productivity tied to wages like since the 70s. and union participation peaked at like 30% in the 1930s or so, according to Future We Need. And recently was at like 10. Oh my god. Recently was at like 10 in 2020. There's a little bit of a boost. But otherwise, union participation has been lowering. So we still have the rights to collectively bargain, to say we're not going to participate in these systems of exploitation unless we have a fair deal. That's collective bargaining, that's democracy, that's consent. We can do that as workers, but the national system set up to manage all this, National Labor Relations Act, National Labor Relations Board, I guess it was like the Wagner Act, was really explicitly made to keep people from doing a general strike and from striking in the first place. To have the arbitration procedures so that people don't have to waste, economic output, didn't have to like slow down our economy just to have dignity. Um, so we can still do that if you have grievances and like a contract's not being upheld or your rights are being violated. You can reach out to a labor organizer that can help you submit a complaint. But you should really be talking to your coworkers about those shared grievances, about the bullshit that you go through together that you both don't want to happen anymore. And strategically and collectively bring those complaints to the boss. And if they don't change things, if they don't actually fix these problems, you can just refuse to participate in a strategic and collective way. Removing our participation means the system shuts down. And people say like, oh yes, we did strike power. We don't actually explain the logic of it, that the reason why we have this power is because they can't just fire everyone, they can't just suspend everyone, they can't just evict every tenant. These are systems that are reliant on our compliance as coworkers, as students, like they need everyone to be in school for the system to work. And if we slow down or stop, because it can be either, and we start with a more collaborative, intentional saw blade. Oh, I guess not. Okay, fuck me. They can't. Basically, they can't kill all of us. It's like the harsh version of it. But they really can't, because if the problem they're having is like, oh shit, we're losing a lot of profit because all these people stopped working because we've been screwing them over so badly, the solution isn't to fire even more people to cause even further loss of profits. Like, the only rational choice is to negotiate. And if they have very reasonable demands, and it's like something that wouldn't be much effort for you to do, like stopping just screwing them over, you can do it. And that's the logic of strike power. It's like why it's fundamentally so much better than political efforts, which are just asking nicely for people to come on. We are essentially asking nicely in our advocacy and lobbying and mobilization efforts because we're going out to a protest, we're trying to get media attention, to pressure a public official to take a different stance or a specific stance. And that is ultimately relying on their goodwill. They can always say no. And so the ability to force decision makers to do what we want them to do is called power. That's what power really is. And you have so much more power when you are operating using strike power. So much more power. So instead of asking nicely, we demand it. And we basically exercise power that we always had, because the systems rely on our labor, our compliance, our resources, our payment. This can also be done as consumers, as debtors, like it's been done 1,000 different ways. And Boycott was literally named after an Irish dude named Boycott, which is hilarious. We've been doing this from thousands of years, honestly. There's Dar el Medina strikes, apparently. Or labor relations strikes a long time ago. Come on. Okay. So workers have been saying, fucking pay us, or we won't go along with their bullshit. And because you rely on us, we're going to use power. for a long time, and it's just gotten harder and harder because of the way our economy has. Okay, let's not do this. Let's not do this. Come on over here. Okay, we have all this power. We're just conditioned to not using it because we want to go along with the flow. We don't want to make people mad. That's the thing is our boss also doesn't want our decision makers, not just bosses and workplaces. The decision makers, people in charge, also don't want to have bad relationships. They're just trained in how to basically manipulate people into going along with the flow by saying, "Oh, our hands are tied; it's already done," and then you just accept the excuse. You don't even push back. They're counting on us to not push back. We are conditioned to this. When we hear stories, and we'll say like, "Oh, but what about this thing with all these workers were fired?" And it's always like the biggest mega corporations possible: Amazon, Starbucks, Walmart. It's never like your average company that can pull off firing every single person and closing down a store. And often it only happens when the labor organizers and activists trying to unionize, collectively bargain in an area are a little bit pushy. It seems like it doesn't really seem like a common thing. I'm going to sell this now. But we're basically conditioned. Oh wow, it didn't pop up. We're conditioned to not using that. Not using that power, and then when people do it, they're a little bit too jumpy with it. But you start small, you start collaborative, and move towards combative, because that's escalation, that's natural, it's basic, theory of trying to force someone to do something is you escalate the costs, you increase the costs for them saying no until they say yes. So you just have to do that strategically. We can do it as tenants, coworkers, students, as consumers, but we haven't really figured that out because you have to have like a system, a structure of ensuring that people participate. You can't just hope that it works out. We're kind of doing better with that now because of social media and like the boycott. It's not going to work out probably, but I'll still fight. I'll still try. And there's 1,000 things that distract us from doing things that we need to because we are stupid animals. We are going to be distracted by bullshit. Like colorful TV and images and bullshit. Okay. What if I could open up the Trobio? Huh? Huh? Come on. Oh, this? Alright. Where were we? Fixing no kings, economic relationships. This is much better as, we're just exercising democracy in our workplace instead of like bullshit European terms like seize the means of production. Seize the means of production is the most cringe thing, honestly, to say in 2026. Imagine someone that has like 3 kids, 2 jobs, a high school education, and you're trying to actually get them to stand up for themselves in their workplace by saying what are essentially memes more than rallying cries. Kinda, you don't have to, but you kind of have to like understand the academic context. It's like how serious are we about liberation if someone needs a college degree or like real studying to actually participate even in discussions about it? So we don't need to 100% seize the means. Reclaiming all of the capital that we built is like the most extreme option. Like it's 100%. We can reclaim a fair portion of it. We can reclaim most of it. We can there's 100 different ways that we can reclaim the means of production. Like worker share, whatever bullshit. There's a bunch of things. So the language of democracy is 1,000 times better. Fuck me. We need to have those relationships built that actually restore dignity to people by them having a say over decisions that affect their lives. We need to whatever. Be serious about like our movements in terms of knowing that there are people that are there because they want to keep their family safe, and that's very different from people that want to be on the right side of history. There are people that want to take a stand. Like that's like a you thing in terms of I want to look good. It's performative. It's expressive. It's very different from I want to survive. So reconciling that, like at a movement level, but then also how we at a movement level, but then also local, how we come together at the beginning of our meetings, how we're showing up, what our goals are, having those one-on-one conversations, understand each other. We need all of it. And we can't make these assumptions about like, oh god, we're not doing slab. We can't make assumptions about like, oh, people don't care. Everyone cares about something. It's about whether or not what they care about is being threatened at the moment. And the people, honestly, who run a lot of electoral, issue-based, our movements, the people who do all this stuff care 100 times more than the average person, and they're an outlier. So they make assumptions that other people need to care as much as them, or like it needs to look the same as them. And that's what makes our movements, our organizations, our campaigns so wildly out of touch, is being run by people who don't actually have the same level of connection with average working people. There's a DC bubble that's been fucking us for so many years, where basically all these people that care a bunch and they care about norms and like, I don't know, DC stuff that someone working a bunch of jobs doesn't give a fuck about. And people in DC are so out of touch, and people like me and a bunch of others might really like it, you know, wearing suits and like legislative procedure and all that stuff, but average people don't. They see it as corrupt. They see it as a symptom of all that's wrong with us. It's like this obsessive focus on image and like good relationships, even if you're fucking each other over. So speaking in more plain language, being honest and upfront, rooting our messaging and the lived experience of people, like things in their day-to-day lives, not like what they think is the best in terms of policy or writings from Europeans or like the smartest argument, but like people's real struggle, like, oh, this happened to me, I got fucked over from this, and I don't think that's right. We can have messaging like that. Yeah, whatever. We can do a lot better. We can fight for justice in a way that affirms both those of us who care about like the norms, the image, and being on the right side of history, as well as the people who want to protect their family. We don't have to choose. But you can't insist that it's always like the culture of the people who want to be on the right side of history comes first and should be the default. You have to acknowledge the differences. You have to be able to sit down with each other, and we're so ingrained in terms of the culture of how we organize in a fucked up authoritarian like person in charge makes all the decisions. It's everywhere. It's in our electoral campaigns, issue-based campaigns, it's in our movements, it's in our fucking No King's Day, like it's in everything. It's the person with the title is the one in charge, and everyone else can go fuck themselves because they don't have the shiny title. It doesn't matter who does the labor, it doesn't matter who does all the effort or who's the most impacted by decisions. What matters is the title and technically being in charge. That's fucked us up for hundreds of years. I don't even know how to say it. Like, this obsessive focus on status and symbols. And by symbols, I do mean like art and writing as well. That's ultimately what they are, little scrawlings that do not accurately change people's lives. They like to act like they do, but what matters is like the change in people's day-to-day lived experiences. And if we're not winning something that actually changes people's day-to-day lives that can't be measured like scientifically, we're not really doing shit. If you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. It's a very common oh, how did that know? Last one I get him. Fuck you. Okay. Low run. So we're horribly out of touch at every level. The people that are in charge, generally, this is all very generally, there's no binary here, no exact binaries don't even exist in the real world. Pretty sure everything has its not exclusions, exemptions, whatever. Everything has its exception to the rule. You can't measure like scientifically something that is a binary that doesn't exist. 90% sure. So generally, the people in charge of our movements and stuff, they care a little bit too much. They're not as rooted in people's lived experiences unless they've got a lot of training. And a good portion of the time, I wouldn't say like generally for this one, they run in an authoritarian manner. Like the person with the title is in charge. The idea of people having like a fair say over decisions that affect their lives is so radical to some people, especially older folks, that they're so conditioned to living and their entire life getting screwed over, fucked over, and being spoken at, and all they really want to do is be the person in charge, the one fucking over people, instead of like having an authentic relationship rooted in respect and consent. That it's not that it's unlikely, it's just more rare to find someone over the age of 50 that is super serious about doing things democratically, fairly, inclusive, because we are conditioned not just into authoritarian governance, but like male and like it's along every freaking line. The people that have like easier lives and more power are the ones that dominate decisions. Terrible. So until we reckon with that, that's what it means to be like inclusive, is to notice these differences and appreciate them and happy to run them. We're fucking ourselves. And it doesn't have to be 100% or nothing like, oh, a person of color walks into the room, they're now in 100% control. It's a balance. It's like all these things are overlapping identities. They're not a card you get to swipe or you get a free decision. It's an experience in your life that can often be struggle. Almost. You check out this one. So it's not this person now makes all the decisions. It's the oh god. It's the people. It's the people that put in the labor to make something happen, and it's the people who oh god. People that make something happen, the people that are most affected by the decisions, like if it's a movement for whatever thing, the people that it's supposedly for should have some say on how the movement exists. Go on. And of course, the people that are technically in charge. Like we can balance all these things. But really, if it's like a immigrant rights protest, you really should not be like speaking over and overruling immigrants repeatedly. Like if you do something that's like out of touch, and then they, like the affected community, people in that community, never come back because they've been so disrespected, and they know that if they don't see someone speaking up against it, it's probably not going to ever happen. So we have to like call out the bullshit right from the beginning. all the gender bullshit, all the racial bullshit. Just need to treat people fairly, respect people that are most affected by decisions, kind of center them in those decision making when it comes to that stuff. We can build our movements in new ways that are more democratic and inclusive, that are more strategic, we get way more stuff done. Anyone can get part. None of this means anyone should ever feel like, oh, I can't do this because I'm this identity. That's not in the slightest what I'm talking about, but that's how people treat it, because they hear what they're used to being in charge, being threatened, and then they freak out. I think it's like a human thing, like it's a tribalistic thing that we still have, because we are still animals at the end of the day. And without acknowledging these different tribal differences that we all have, with our identities being tribes, basically, we let like a de facto domination occur, and that's ruining our movements. It's wasting our time. It's keeping people in charge that don't actually care about winning. They, want to kind of benefit from it or express themselves. It's pushing people away. It's making us weaker. It's wasting all of our time. We make assumptions that other people don't care because they don't share the same culture as us. So by being intentional, by focusing on democracy and consent, we mean democratic decision making, because there's 50% plus one vote, like a majority of votes, really allows. You got 21 people in a room, and somehow if you get 11 of them, the other 10 can be like violently abused. Doesn't make sense. So there's democracy as in 50% plus one, the way we kind of understand it here. Sometimes 60, like in the Senate with the filibuster. But there's also democracy as in everyone that is affected by a decision has a right to have a say. And that's what we call consensus-based decision-making. Where you literally get everyone's approval, and people are immediately like, oh, that could never work, blah, blah, blah. But what it does is it forces people to work together, to understand each other's differences, to understand the reasons why people have opposition, instead of just overruling them. And we can do that, and then if it doesn't work out, we can lower it down to 80%. There's nothing holy and sacred about 50% plus one, but there is something sacred about people having a say in decisions that affect their lives, because we've created all these systems and ways of tricking people out of that right to have a say, that ability to have dignity and influence over their life, to have agency. We've just found 1,000 different ways to make it work that people feel like they don't need that, or that we accept that it isn't a guarantee or that it shouldn't be. And that's one of the greatest evils of our time, is the violation of consent, of dignity, of democracy, that we all fundamentally should have as being, living human beings. We all deserve dignity. We can respect it, we can still get stuff done if we invest in each other. We're going up. That was the right way. You gotta be kidding me, brother. Cousin. So what we want is democracy, we want is dignity, consent, consensus. We can model it in our organizations, in our movements, in our campaigns, both issue-based and electoral. We can do it in our workplaces. Of course, it's going to be harder to have a consensus-based decisions, but it can be done. People do it. It's how we operated for tens of thousands of years. Amazing. We can do better. We can improve things. We can respect all the differences. That includes failures too. There's a saying that the fundamentals of organizing podcasts by people's actions. It's like redemption should always be possible. And I've definitely had my horrible mistakes, and there's something going on right now where people assume that by making a fucked up thing, right, like that defines our entire life. We have these things called cognitive scripts, the stories we tell about ourselves that can crap us our entire lives. We're basically thinking that we're not worthy of something or whatever. And by not having redemption be possible, what we're doing is we're like calcifying and cementing those cognitive scripts into ruining our lives. And that fear of doing something wrong keeps people from being authentic with each other. Let's see if I can do this. Can I get this? Fuck me. Let's do this again. We can have democracy, we can have consent, we can have consensus wherever it's feasible, and then we can have modified consensus if it doesn't work out. We can work through our problems, we can do better. We can have everything we needed if we could just get over this tendency to treat people differently based off of their status or their difference in culture, in class, in gender, and race, and whatever. We treat people so differently because of it, and we start making up bullshit. We start fucking vibe racism, like just assuming that it's like what you've read on TV or whatever the dominant, most mainstream understanding of culture is, that it's like that for every single one of the people that share that identity. Wow. And it's like sticking your head into a saw blade. So we get over our bullshit, we get to know each other, we become intentional. I think all these things right now are, oh my god. You gotta be kidding me. Wow. All these things are, surprisingly, they're still hidden behind paid walls. Either you're a professional staffer, oh my god. Either you're a professional staffer that had incredible training, or you went to a paid training that can get upwards of like, could be like $50 in the cheap end, can be $1,000 in the more expensive end. And that was like 10 years ago. So we're very selective, and it's basically by not sharing political information, because honestly, think about it, like, if you're fighting for justice, do you have to really care about the opinions of random Joe Bob? Like, you should, to some degree, like, respect their humanity. Wow. But to spend so much time on it, like, obviously you're not going to want to do that. But we can still share information. The issue is that basically careers are threatened by people who talk, because they see all this stuff as like proprietary knowledge or whatever. Like, it's a huge secret, and even like in the radicals, not just Democratic campaigns. Oh my god! Not just in like Democratic campaigns, but in our movements as well. I guess people assume that like those that were fighting in our campaigns would screw us over or something, that they would know how we operate and then be able to ruin us. But like, it's fucking democracy. Like, it's not a super secret, amazing whatever. If they know about democracy, that democracy exists, and that ruins everything for us, like, we were fucked anyways. And we're often fucked anyways. So we hide all this information out of like fear for careers, reputation, you know, oversharing, whatever. And effectively what that's done is rob us of the scientific method because people can't share information and tips and like have a wiki and like improve because it has to be like secret. It has kept us from basically learning from each other. And the only people that will be able to talk to me about learning enough of this, you have to pay them for it. And that fucking system has basically recreated the most exploitative bullshit that is ruining our world in our politics. It's ruined future generations, it's kept people in power that really should not be. And we don't have to live like this anymore, we can do better. If we can just start sharing, if we can just start being honest with the stuff that we go through, with our lessons, with our mistakes, but people are so obsessed about not wanting to admit to mistakes, to having the perfect reputation, to having the perfect image and whatever dream ideal, heroic bullshit, individualist, all that stuff, especially with social media, has really fucked us real bad. So people don't want to talk about the sloppy sides of organizing, the mistakes and the drama and the bullshit. We just want to be the cool people, you know, wearing a megaphone and adorning ourselves with righteousness and justice and all this imagery from movements. We want to profit off of this and increase our status with it. We don't actually give a real representation of it. I'm gonna fucking die. But we can start sharing, we can do all this stuff. I'm just not sure if it's possible. My like biggest thing is if it's possible with organizations that were formed in the 80s because of their structure and like the way they were set up. That structure exists many decades past, and you know, organizations evolve, adapt or die. Oh my god. But they don't adapt a ton at once. We don't know, like, they usually aren't built from the ground up because there's so much money and investment and power in the way that we do things and in like the existing structures that they're a little bit averse to change. So what we end up seeing are this sort of new networked protests, Twitter and Gear Gas by, was it Zainab Tufekci? Okay. Talks about like the weakness of this because we do skip a lot of the critical organizational building. The issue is ultimately that we are using these digital tools that mean that we don't have to build the relationships and experience and training that has normally been required to be able to pull off a big protest. And without building those relationships, basically they fall apart. They don't stand the test of time. Oh, you're gonna be way up there, aren't you? I can just kill this guy. Alright, you brother? You? I love iframes. Oh wow. So it's like it's like how trees don't grow indoors because the wind doesn't blow on them long enough to build the stress wood that's needed to hold down their weight and survive storms. Like how muscle doesn't grow unless we move it. All this stuff applies to our organizations, our movements. and basically our skills as well. Oh god. And so by skipping this, we've basically atrophied our muscles. We've weakened ourselves. Okay. So by building more intentional relationships, can you just fucking kill me, bro? You really have to do this right now? Okay. So we build more intentional relationships. The thing is, we can skip all this with the digital push that we have. But what we need is like those evaluation mechanisms and stuff to basically take a structure so that people can force coming together more easily without, you know, avoiding trolls, like without the troll bullshit. Okay, can we read it? Okay. So like enough complaints would make an event the conversation between the event host and like the national team, like a survey that would describe the type of problem, whether or not it's cultural, social, whatever, financial, where the disagreement lies, that you can like basically quantify, and you can appoint the right people to deal with the problem that have the experience. We can do that. We can basically automate a bunch of the organizing in a way that furthers relationships and growing without weakening ourselves too much, because it is a lot of work. I know there's a way to probably even make a game, honestly. Okay. We did not pick up. There we go. I feel like I'm gonna get more comfortable with this. The more I spew my insights into the world. Democracy, consent, consensus, exploitation. One of the more interesting, oh god, parts of the feature we need by Erica Smiley and Sarita Gupta was them basically saying we need to stop legitimizing these systems that exploit us. I think that's kind of the big thing. It's like we've started that where people like shit talk major corporations and that kind of stuff to a degree that like is amazing, because we have the culture and bullshit. We can the learnings, the okay, close one. Okay, stop it. That's amazing. I did not electrocute you like that. Oh wow. So we could probably automate it. Like the Facebook Messenger bots that you see with parents together, United Action or whatever. There's also texting bots like ResistBot, Daily Action. They can handle a lot of like the basic dissemination of messages of the day or whatever, and then honestly, we could probably find some way of summarizing the responses, summarizing the issues that people face, and having the people that are dedicated to reviewing those and like connecting those that can help, calling in the experts if we need it. I love this game so much. I'm looking forward to it. She comes in here like, I don't give a fuck about other people, initially. And she grows the more that she experiences struggle with people. The more that she learns about their story, that's how you get the true ending. It's literally the entire point. You gotta be kidding me, bro. Big boy? I just want to learn how to... I want to learn what your hitbox looks like. As the kids say, lock the fuck in. I don't know what that means. I just heard it. That's what we want to see. Where's the, there you are. Tiny one? Are you fucking kidding me? Thank you. We gotta get over the, save the silver heal bullshit. And just use it to survive. That was a waste. There. One. One. We do one of these. I don't have anything good to say here. The feature we need, No Shortcuts by Jane McKelvey, also a Collective Bargain. I guess Rules to Win by, which I haven't read. The Secrets of a Successful Organizer. Also a amazing fucking simple language guide. On. Fuck you. Okay. I think Prisons of the People is great, by Harvey Hahn, Liz McKenna, and Michelle Oyakaba. More of like a academic look. Qualitative and quantitative review of successful community organizing. And one of their lessons I think is important for No Kings, which is that we can make use of these national mobilizations that are more symbolic, that like aren't deep organizing, still do a lot with them, because they serve critical functions in being an initial opportunity for people to take a specific role and learn and train and mesh themselves within our organization. So we recruit people over time, and then in a few months after a big rally, we have another action that's like a more protesty thing. You can ask someone to be like your media liaison, show them the press release that we drafted, help them like learn a little bit about it, but basically have them do like the more basic work as they get to learn, like sending it out in the morning at 5 a.m., which now you can do automated, which is nice. Calling and following up with newsrooms, the tip lines, maybe even researching the media list, like the newsrooms, the places where you send the press release in the first place. You have them do this introductory stuff, they learn about it, it takes them a few hours, and basically now they have a new skill. A new critical thing that they can pretty much teach someone soon enough how to do. And then they feel like they're playing a more meaningful role, like they are actually valued. And that's what's missing from our campaigns. By not having democratic and inclusive decision-making included, like as a requirement for No Kings, as a requirement for Mayday Strong, without this working together being required of us, it doesn't always happen. It does in big cities, but like less organized areas, definitely happens less. And then we're not leveraging our people power, not making use of the human capital that we have, our skills, perspectives, all that stuff is skipped over because we have the digital tools that make it all easier, which means that we're atrophying, we're weakening our relationships the same way we're weakening them with everything else. So the solution is obviously to force people together in ways that require more collaboration, require more intentional relationships, um, like having more than just event lead and safety lead being separate from the event host. Like we can have an outreach lead, or we can have whatever, but just more and more, so that basically there's no way someone can fake all these names and roles for people, and then a follow-up evaluation review, a survey, whatever it is, not just good, bad, missed, but actually like it could be better in this way, and we could even like quantify some of them. So they're basically like, data numbers, like rate on a scale of 1 to 5 your safety, or 1 to 5 your media rates, like the inclusion and diversity rates, how meaningful the opportunities were that you were presented with, rate how strategic you thought they were. And by getting this kind of information from our attendees, maybe people who pass like the first layer of like giving responses and feedback and evaluations, we're going to kind of weed out the random trolls, but then also give this opportunity for people to have their voice listened to. And then honestly, if someone has like a real criticism that gets flagged enough times by enough people, we can make sure that it's addressed by having the person with natural force it to happen as part of the agreement for an event host to have the decision-making authority, to have control over the events, which they currently enjoy without having to do anything. Fuck me. I love you, Chris. Oh my god, I thought we were gonna run out of like a goddamn anime. I was trying to be cool. Mistake. Never again. Look at her go. So that's how we fix nokings. We require inclusive democratic decision making. We include more evaluation and feedback inherent basically in for attendees, but also for the hosts. We make their ability to have an event on the map, which means that a lot of national groups are going to be doing recruiting for them. We make it contingent on their participation in the feedback and follow-up surveys. We should not be handing people immense amounts of power and basically being the leader for the Nokings and their community without being sure that they aren't fucking grifting. Because goddamn, all across the country, I've met people that use this kind of stuff as a way to empower their organization. Like even the best of us, even the best, most movement, beloved unions and like nonprofits out there have this problem because it's existential. Okay. Because it's existential, having grant money, having good media coverage. Okay. You got me. You fucked me. It is existential because they basically need to show that they're in control or like leadership to be able to get grant money, which goes like tens of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands sometimes, I guess. So like their staff's ability to feed their family and basically the organization's ability to stay alive depends on them showing leadership and like good news coverage and all this bullshit that's way more shallow. but which also leads to conflict between organizations that should be working together as strong coalitions, as our movements, really. So overcoming this is going to require some sort of intentional structure that forces people together, that forces people to evaluate how they're doing, to address the problems of their events, that forces basically uh, leadership and growth of new people that might be willing to offer hundreds of hours of labor a month, but who aren't being used because the way that the organizations that are in charge consider volunteers are basically only seat filling roles. Where people can show up to our event. Okay. Oh wow, you really fucked me. um, a lot of organizations, the only things that you can do are to be a participant, to fill a seat, take an action, whatever. Like they don't want to see you. Not that they don't want to, but they don't have the capacity uh, to organize you, to teach you how to bring people together, to build teams of activists, to stand up for themselves, and to better their situation by demanding better, collectively bargaining. Not every nonprofit organization, not every movement or activist organization or network has the capacity, but they all should. Like they all should be able to teach people how to have dignity, how to demand it, how to be better, how to build power. And by withholding this information, whether it's because they don't know or like whatever it is, we are fucking everything up. Like we are literally leading people into concentration camps because we cannot get over this. And when you think about like, oh, who's in charge of these organizations? How close are they to the issues? Are their families the ones that are being fucked over? Are they the ones that are like living in fear? No, they're not. Some of them are, like the blank, whatever impact community-led organizations. But a lot of times it's not the people whose lives are on the line that are ones making decisions, and that's what keeps us so goddamn out of touch. Like, as movements, as leaders, we see leadership as being basically a title. You really fucked me. And leadership, like Marshall again says in Complementary Org Conflicts, a 2017 lecture at Leading Change Network, I guess, LCN. He said leadership, a lot of people see it as like having a title, having the fancy office, having the status of leader, of being the person in charge. But what leadership truly is taking responsibility for enabling others to live up to their potential. Leadership isn't about giving orders, it's about, God, what is that old meme? The meme with like a person in like a caravan, like they're carrying a heavy thing, like a horse and wagon, whatever, but like people are the ones dragging the rope, dragging the thing. The leader is the one sitting on top, like telling them to go this way, go faster, whatever. Like leader is the one either out front or like alongside the people pulling it, showing them how it's done, making sure they're okay, and basically making sure the entire operation actually works. And an operation that only works because you have a particular person in charge who controls all the power is not a sustainable way of doing things. It's not a powerful way of doing things in terms of like they're gone and what your organization collapses. That's the old ethos of like for a business of make yourself irreplaceable. That's what we do for corporations that are fucking us over. That's not what we should be doing for our movements. Like, have so much power that they can't get rid of you. Like, fuck me, bro. They should be able to get rid of your ass. Like, you should never put yourself in a situation where you're the only one that can do something because you want more money, because you want more power. Like, that's not how our movement should be working. We should be in favor of democracy. We should be lifting people up. Okay. Hello, how are you doing? You got my ass with that one. I should have healed. And that's what's fucking us up. It's like this misunderstanding of leadership, this misunderstanding of democracy as only something that we do, like voting, informal elections. Not that we can practice it in our economic, in our workplaces, in our apartment complexes and our schools and our neighborhoods, as consumers, as people that have debt. These can all be places for democracy that are currently like generally run authoritarian. And like if someone doesn't believe that we should have democracy in these systems, we honestly should not be uplifting them. We shouldn't be giving them power. We shouldn't be giving them control over others. We definitely shouldn't be giving them leadership positions in our movements. You fuck me. Come on. Once more. I ran into her. So this misunderstanding of what democracy is, this misunderstanding of leadership, and the misunderstanding around what is inclusivity are all like horrible, wretched evils. Not the people that make them, but like the problems themselves are like violence, basically. They are destroying our community's abilities to protect themselves, to get themselves to navigate out of this mess. It's like, I don't know, people on a boat, they're coordinating in a storm to stay alive, and you are saying they're not allowed to talk to each other unless it's through the captain, even if it saves about, even if it keeps people alive. It's that level of obsessive greed and the desire to be in control that has ruined so much of our lives. It's why we don't have healthcare in this country. It's why we don't have free public college, all the other things that European countries have, that we waste billions of dollars on illegal wars to do instead. That was interesting. Come on. Come on. Oh my god, you almost got me there. That was a scooper. You scooped me the fuck up. Like an ice cream cone. So, consent, democracy. And I feel like that these are all basically the same thing. Consent and democracy are inclusivity. Like, if you don't have the consent of the impacted community, if you're not involving them in decisions, decision making, actively going out of your way to bring them in, and not actually hosting an event without having adequate representation, making it like an important, critical thing to do that we fucking failed without, you're not serious about it. You're not serious about making change. No one can be serious about making change unless they actually have impacted communities involved to some degree or some representation in decision making. A good this doesn't mean where people of color are like the ultimate decision makers. It's not that they speak for a community, it's they represent those communities' struggles because they've heard so much of it being from the community. You fucked me in the corner. That's a new one. So consent and democracy are inclusive. You can't have inclusion, you can't have democracy without inclusivity. Otherwise, if it's all wealthy older folks that run everything, they're screwing over the local population. They often make meetings that run long, or they aren't accessible to working class people because they care about action as valuable within itself without having to achieve anything, which is what marginalized communities, vulnerable, at risk, they needed to see a result of the participation. They needed to see that they're being valued. So we can't have democracy without inclusivity, and we can't have it without leadership either. We can't have a movement unless we're lifting people up. A movement where we're all fighting for ourselves is a goddamn mess. That is recreating the systems that fuck us over in our private lives and like outside world. And our formal economic system, we recreate that bullshit inside of the thing that's supposed to save us. Like, obviously it's not gonna work. Obviously that's gonna turn people off and make them feel like, wow, they're just being used like a goddamn, I don't know, worker at McDonald's or something. It's like, this is what people feel like when they take part in a lot of nonprofits. Like, they're seat fillers, like they're customers, ultimately. They're just there to help people make money. And if they don't make money, they're discarded. So if we're not serious about lifting people up, It shows them we're not serious about winning anything for their lives, because obviously you need to be lifting people up. Oh, okay. Can we just do this? Okay. Goddamn. And she's dead. Has enough energy to come back. We see. We see you. The delayed laugh every time. I'm still trying to figure out the thematic relevance of like lace, interlaced, interwoven. Because this is what we need our movements to be. We don't need a bunch of strings from like one person that hosts an event to all the different little attendees, like all coming up. If that is severed, then they all don't know each other. Like we need people to know each other and interlace. We need to interweave people, like Ashley Woodard Henderson from Working Families Started said. We need to interweave people in our symbolic protest communities with the people doing the good work, because those are two separate things. And the way it's discussed online, like with Kat Doisterhouse from South Florida Women's March, that I remember the name from initially, with 51, like responding to Decolonize Myself Instagram with, oh, like 5051, no king, all stuff, it's still valuable. Like what you need to do is, you need to take advantage of it, you need to exploit it. And here's the problem is like, why should our most vulnerable communities, why should this, and in this instance, Native communities, indigenous communities, why should they have to go out of the way to fight for scraps, to find some benefit in our movements that are speaking for them, that are trying to fight for them, professing to fight for them, without actually involving them in any meaningful outreach? Like it happens in some big cities, it happens in places where people are organized, but if we don't require it, people aren't going to go out of the way because they see it as only weakening themselves because of how fucked up our culture is. Because we see power as being something that people should control en masse, and titles, our leadership, you know, and having the ability to give people orders is what makes someone powerful, as opposed to having the ability to show people how to live their truest lives, to live up to their potential, taking responsibility for that, instead of having the ability to ensure the decision makers do a particular thing, even if they don't want to be able to force them to by wielding people power. Because we don't have organized money, we have people, we don't have a ton of resources. It's because of these fucked up understandings about our culture and like it being the dominant one and not challenged, and older generations clinging to it so hard because they've been conditioned throughout a lifetime to recreate these structures and to see a certain thing as success. That's what's fucking over our movement, so we need to get over it. We need to develop systems that force ourselves to get over it. We can't have our most at-risk and vulnerable populations having to go out of their way to fight for scraps to get some sort of benefit from our great big movements, especially when our movements only exist because people are suffering so bad, because these communities are being screwed over, exploited, are being brutalized in the streets, the rights are being violated, and they then have to go and fight just to be heard, just to benefit from our big things that give a lot of nonprofits a lot of fucking money because they can fundraise from it. That's so fucked up. Like it's so goddamn fucked up. That you, like, not in an intentional, oh my god, this person's trying to screw over the community's way, but like, holy shit, this person does not get the, you know, the problem here, because they're seeing the world in the lens of capitalism, patriarchy, and all the bullshit, all the profit and exploitation. We're just so conditioned into it that really creating a system that keeps our community safe, that fights in democratic, inclusive ways, is seen as ultra hyper radical, like beyond the future, forever, Star Trek fantasy bullshit. People don't even believe in their own ability to not fuck over other people. That's how bad the conditioning is. We don't have to do this anymore. We don't have to fucking screw over communities that need help. We don't have to exploit people that are suffering the most to have movements. We can include them from the start. We can require it from the start. We can do the dirty work of working together with our communities, because we already do that. Like in our movements, we already are requiring people to be inclusive and democratic in decision making, because otherwise, what the fuck are you doing with your life? You're wasting everyone's time. You're ruining our possibility of bettering our lives. And people don't like to put up with that. He fucked me. I fucked me. Not that Cat is a bad person or anything anywhere slightly like that. It's just not seeing the full picture here when it comes to consent, democracy, inclusive decision making. These communities shouldn't have to fight for scraps. We should require people that we are giving power to by giving these digital tools, by giving these lists, by giving this control over so many people to speak for communities, to benefit from the atrocities that are happening that people are responding to. We should require ourselves to do better by default. That's what it means to fight for marginalized communities, is to do this stuff even if it's difficult, to not shy away from it. Okay? There we go. To build teams of activists that are diverse, inclusive enough that speak for the different communities' needs, and not a tokenizing way, not in a, oh, we have a person that fits, you know, it is a woman or is black or is an immigrant, and therefore we don't need any other groups, any other input from any of those communities because we have our one. Like, that's this kind of tokenizing that happens all across this country, and people just don't understand that that's not how race works, because we don't get taught about this stuff in school. We don't basically have a formal activist school. We don't have a movement school, really. There is, I think, an organization that has that name, but fuck me if they actually take on the work, like to teach entire movements and generations of people how to do this work. And it is work, it is labor, and we should be spreading it out. It should not be on an incumbent few, it should not be incumbent on a few people. We fucked ourselves. So we require people, you gotta be fucking with me, bro. We require people to do this outreach by having the safety, the safety team, the media team, the meaningful work, the take action team, the strategic work, take action team. We have all that stuff be reviewed by attendees that have been to multiple events, or some other, I don't know, some other qualifier. Maybe they already filled out a survey or something, and it weeds out, you know, the trolls. We get people to review. Maybe we have like, basically like how you have verified profiles on Facebook and stuff. Like, if we know it's a real person, we actually give their voice an opportunity to be listened to. And then whenever we see flags where there's like major issues or overlapping between different respondents, we require the event host to at least address or consider them, to read them. And if they happen again at multiple events, then we have someone from national, that we have someone who's apparently on the local coalition team talk about what the issue is. And we have an arbitration process. We have meaningful discussion about what's going wrong and how we can improve it, because especially people that have lived in the same place their entire lives, they get stuck in the same mindset as people that run that area, the dominant mindset. They recreate a lot of the problems. Oh god. We still fuck ourselves. I don't know how to do this. You fuck me? I fucked myself. No need. Wow. So building these feedback mechanisms, we have some way of weeding out bullshit so that National can arbitrate when there are disputes. And if you just let people talk about the problems they see, God, of course they will spam that like a motherfucker. But at least knowing that it's there, knowing that it's not being addressed or that it is being addressed. Because some people will, uh, like having a fake point system, can incentivize people for the most unbelievable stuff. Having a point system to make sure that we have a well-rated No Kings event. People will start fighting for that. People will set goals for themselves in the meetings because those who are inclusive, those who do have democratic decision making, will have enough voices at the table to want to do better, to have like the golden star, whatever it is, for like highest quality events and most meaningful thing for people to participate in. I've always thought about it would be great to have like a 5-star system for rating campaigns because maybe you have it's 3 people hanging out on a corner saying no to war, whatever. That's like a half-star campaign. That's not a 5-star. That's not a strike level. Uh, like Vietnam War era. Whatever. You would have a 1-star. Okay. Maybe a 1-star or half-star is a few people standing on the corner, so that's like almost worthless. It still has some impact, but it's basically worthless because it's people expressing themselves. They're not doing the action with the intent of actually stopping the problem they're protesting. They want to register their dissent. They want to be seen as opposing it to make themselves feel better. That's ultimately what it is. The uh, the needles hitting the claw line really fucks me up so much. A 2-star system, I really don't know. Okay. We got lucky. We did it. 2-star. 2 stars, maybe people delivering, like 5 people going to an office to deliver letters from the constituents. Maybe recording it and putting it online. That's the way you want to start pressuring elected officials if you are going to require their goodwill, is to publicize and politicize their response to an issue to make sure other people know, because they often want to fly under the radar. That's the path of least resistance, with no one caring about the issue. So they're always going to start with that, and that be their default. You need to break them out of that inertia by channeling the anger, the urgency, the hope in having a better world. In whatever particular instance an issue it is, the framing, the cutting the issue, taking a big issue like climate change and being like, our carbon emissions for our municipality are too high. We need percentage by a certain year. That's cutting an issue. So having each of those steps, cutting an issue, having the media team, having the relationship with the legislator or decision maker, having inclusive and democratic decision making, these should all be like things that increase the level of stars. So having a 0 star is people posting about it. Like 1 star is protesting publicly. 2 stars is like an office visit. 3 stars is an office visit and media coverage and social media posting and the follow-up. A 4 star is an extended, actual thought-out campaign that has inclusive and democratic decision-making, that has a coalition that is involved in strategizing about how to pressure an elected official, that is thinking in terms of not just how do we pressure this person, how do we pressure the people to give them power? How do we hit not just the primary target, like pressuring the White House, which is goddamn waste of energy and potential for no kings, but going after the secondary, the pillars that hold them up, where they get their power from. Because once you start stripping away people's foundation and their steadiness and their power, they don't have the ability to reject your demands as easily. And the more you strip, the more you're able to shake them off their throne. So we need not just those secondary targets like state Republican leaders or elected officials that aren't acting, but we need to go after local municipal leaders, our mayors. We need to go after county boards and counties and sheriffs. We need to go after even Democrats that aren't willing to stand up to these atrocities, like the illegal Iran war. Jeffries recently saying he doesn't know if he's going to oppose the $50 billion requested spending. Like, holy shit. There's spineless and there's like a black hole of like lacking courage and conviction, and you're about to collapse into yourself, brother. Like, holy shit. We have fucked ourselves so bad with this unwillingness to stand up, to rock the boat, to be ourselves, to be our authentic selves, even if we're losing, even if we're failing, to own up to our mistakes and to do better. All these things screwing us over to such a degree, and the inertia of wanting to do things the way they've always been holds us back in a chokehold. Having these different star systems, having the evaluation of democracy, the inclusion as a default, as something that we always fight for, is possible. It is something that's enabled by our digital tools. It's something that we should always have been doing in the first place, that allows people, by basically requiring them to do outreach, meaningful outreach, inclusive decision making, to have planning meetings that aren't just like the time is posted on a bulletin board and who shows up, but like going out and reaching community leaders, talking to them about when works for them, and choosing the time based off of that. That's the level of inclusivity that we need, of democracy that we need. So many places ignore it. They say the person that's in charge, the event host, set the time, who can make it. Basically, they'll stack the meeting with their friends so they can vote whatever the fuck they want to. That's how a lot of these events are being hosted currently in less organized areas, unless there have been organizations built up enough that are able to force themselves out of this inertia by basically collectively bargaining whether or not they're going to disrupt the event. So events, they need to buy in local communities, local activists. You need to have the people that are most impacted by an issue, like immigrant communities, mixed status families, like people that are poor, working class, the inclusivity, like accessibility thing. We need to have the people who actually put in the labor into these events to have a meaningful say in their decision, because we can't be using people like their labor and then ignoring what they want to see happen. The people that are behind the scenes and making this stuff happen have some of the most creative ideas of how to better leverage our potential. And by not listening to them, we push them away. And that's how we kill movements. We basically make it so that anyone that participates in a meaningful role is scared the fuck away, because they're not being listened to, because they're not doing meaningful work that's producing a meaningful material impact on people's lives, particularly the lives of the people who we are professing to fight for. When they see that we're not serious about this movement stuff, they stop taking it seriously, because goddamn, who the fuck would? Who would do all this labor and effort and like the relationships just to be ignored, just to not make an impact in the world? That's why we have the demographics too. That's why these events are mostly older folks with the free time to care about action as valuable good itself, that want to be seen as doing something because they see the atrocities and they feel such internal tension, but they don't have the opportunity to actually do something about it, because so many organizations, even the good ones that are fighting the good fight, don't have the resources required to run 5-star, upper scale, whatever campaigns that are meaningful and accessible, and waging strategic, disruptive campaigns that actually shut down business as normal, that empower communities, that are led by members in terms of, and oh my god, being led by members. That is being democratic, because some people count it democratic if they vote in an organizational leader once every year or so, and then they can basically run it like a king. They can ignore everyone else's complaints, and that person runs everything, and that's somehow democracy. Or you can have it where the members actually participate in decision making with everyone else, and it be member led. So we have people that are basically grifting and ripping off our movements by faking being movement leaders. Okay, perverting things by exploiting our movements to profit organizationally. Like they want to raise money, they want to look good for grants, they want to whatever, and then that are not making improvements in the day-to-day lives of our working class and marginalized communities. Get over here. I don't know why I did a down dash. Okay. Oh my god, I did not jump out of the way. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. We're getting better at it. So especially in that regard, in terms of the people that are leading these no kings and other things, their leadership is composed by people that get elected like once a year, instead of the decisions being made by the members themselves who are putting in the effort to make the events happen. That's one of our biggest failures of democracy, is like that's how movements are run in a lot of places, instead of empowering the people that are putting in the labor and doing things collectively, doing things democratically, having fair, decision making. Really, the only people in the national coalition with decision making power should be member led, because those organizations are radically different than others. You can't screw over your members if you are democratic and member led, at least easily. Okay, Kitty, what are you being so angry about? What are you doing? Trying to call me up. So we have all the answers for issue-based electoral campaigns, for our movements, for our organizations, for our workplaces, to move away from authoritarian systems, unilateral control, people exploiting others and profiting off of it, towards more democratic, more collective, making decisions together, respecting the dignity by each person having a say over the decisions that affect their lives, and embodying that in our workplaces, in our apartments, as tenants, schools, as debtors, as consumers. But we don't take a lot of the effort seriously, like just having a protest or holding signs, expressing your opinion, as opposed to being serious about what it's going to take to actually move a decision maker to do something different about the issue, to actually produce the change that we'd like to see in the world. Because we need to both convince the decision maker and collect enough of a legislative majority to pass stuff. And that requires being scrappy and thinking in terms of like, my family's gonna die if we don't win this. So we need to be centering more of those people in our decisions and recognizing the difference in the perspectives of people that are showing up because they want to be on the right side of history, or they want to do a good thing, or they want to resolve their internal tension and express themselves, as opposed to people protecting their families by holding a sign. That's basically what we're doing with the consumers and the boycotts. Like the Target one is more like led by Black organizations that are more serious about like when someone comes in and says, "Oh, the boycott's over, they did better." Like, no, 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 no. The community can speak out against that, which happened recently. So Target is not a good example because there is some intentionality and some like effort and coordination and structure. Even if it's like decentralized, there's some real thought and effort going into making sure that it works. So we can't just say boycott an organization. We need to have like monthly, quarterly, whatever meetings to look at the percentage of profits that have been reduced or whatever sales growth, how much it's been changed. Because if we're not measuring the impacts of our actions, if we're not evaluating and doing feedback, and reviewing our strategy, we're not serious about it. If we can't measure it, it doesn't exist. That's a old ethos. It's not in van, it doesn't exist. So if we don't actually review things, we can't say that we did really well, whatever. Boycott, because a lot of people are also boycotting because they're scared to go outside because they're afraid of federal officials abducting them or their family members or brutalizing them in the streets. So if there's like a pandemic or like that happens and profits go down in an industry or like prices go up because of something else that's happening, we can't claim that as our victory, even though a lot of organizations and movements want to just because it's easy. We need to be serious about like what impact we're actually having so we can be rigorous in evaluating how we can recreate that. And by not talking about politics, not talking about the effect that we're having, our strategy, our insights, our lessons, our failures, we're robbing ourselves the ability for new people to come into the movement to learn, for people that have been doing this for years to also learn, to get better, and to see what's worked for other people, to try to recreate it themselves and report back on whether or not that's actually possible. Because a lot of the times, a lot of the movements succeed because you catch lightning in a bottle. You got the energy that's unheard of. You have an issue that's very widely felt and deeply felt, and you just go for it. And you have the legislative majority that's like right there that you can push forward and make it happen, which I've seen in a stronger left-leaning state that already had basically the legislative majority. And we pushed for something, and we were able to get it pretty easily, and it changed a lot of people's lives. At-risk people, regarding incarceration, as well as communities that are like undocumented and financial aid accessibility. We already have the legislative majority. Then it's like just whipping up the votes, making sure people vote the right way, just doing the lobbying, the advocacy. You don't have to force people as much. You just have to build relationships. So reviewing when this actually works, instead of just claiming our victories and our successes as if it was all ourselves, and giving the proper respect to the fact that a lot of these victories and reductions in suffering are because of movements prior to us, the generations previously that have fought and died, bled, struggled to make it so that we have certain rights, that we have a certain dynamic or balance of power. We have to give respect and consideration to that, because otherwise people are going to try to recreate a certain movement or image or whatever without actually being able to make it happen. And then that gives people hope that they then fail and they lose hope and they burn out. And we have to stop doing that. We have to stop burning people out because they don't have meaningful action, because they're not listened to, because they don't see success. There's like all these things we fail at repeatedly in basically every instance to some degree that we should start taking note of, and that good organizations do. Good organizations have feedback at the end of every single meeting, every single action. They listen to people. What is your gut feeling about how this went? Give me your gut feeling, not an intellectual, heady description, but like gut feeling, first thing that comes to mind, how did you feel about this? And then give us your pluses, like the things that went well that we should keep on doing, and then give us your negatives, your deltas, what we should change, your thorns, roses. Give us something that went wrong that we should fix. And so by starting with gut feeling, and then something good, we help the compliment so the negative stuff doesn't hurt as much. And then you can go through, even with rooms of 200 people, you can go and be like, oh, you said this was your feeling, or can you unpack that for me? You can actually get everyone's input in an entire room for hundreds of people in a productive and efficient way, making sure everyone's listened to and making sure the voices are given attention that are representing perspectives and issues that are often talked over, or that basically have to yell in a meeting to be heard, or that otherwise aren't centered or considered. So we can make sure that we represent these perspectives and be more inclusive if we have this active evaluation feedback mechanism at the end of everything we do, which should honestly be required. And good, bad, or missed, as like the way that we review how No Kings events go currently, it's god awful. It's like shit tier failure, honestly, of movements to be democratic, inclusive, to listen to the voices of people. And it's easy to go along with these things when you don't really care. When you're happy with having the news coverage, the sense of success, people feeling good, especially if those people are just there to express themselves. If you're not actually considering the voices of the people that are most impacted, that need to see their families feel safer, that don't feel like we're achieving much from these events, it's easy to ignore it and be like, good, bad, or missed. So we have to rupture this inertia within our movements, our organizations, our workplaces, and our democracy towards action, towards improving ourselves. And No Shortcuts has a good example where the people in Arizona that led, like Lucha, the Fight for 15 campaign, immigrants organization, like had to fight their own allies to be given the leadership role to do it the right way. Otherwise, it was going to be run by old established unions that recreated a lot of the problems, that had messaging that wasn't representative, didn't move people, they're out of touch, had the old school way of like talking over, talking at people. So we have the solutions, and it's in the hands of the people that are the most struggling, the most vulnerable, that have seen successes across the world and not just the United States. And that's what no short. That's what the future we need by Erica Smiley and Sarita Gupta really argues for, is learning from the people like Black communities in the United States, like garment workers abroad, like women's workers, and like in previous generations, and people that have been screwed over the most, that have had to been super clever, sneaky, that have been scrappy and creative. We should be learning from them because they're against almost insurmountable odds and they still won. And so we should be aggressively trying to learn everywhere possible. And that's how we use that's how we use the scientific and democratic method to better our movements. It's how we can actually undo the atrocities that are going on in this administration, both here in our country, the United States, and across the entire world. It's how we can reclaim our country, how we can restore our rights. It's how we can win it all. And it's literally just democracy. Adios. Link stack /organize.